Scanos Juego, we're just going to give a few minutes for people to join. There was just a setting issue with the Zoom when we started, and it was asking for a passcode. So hopefully you were able to connect without a passcode now. We just had to log out of the meeting to restart it. But hopefully people are going to be able to join now with no troubles. We're just going to check and make sure. Okay, Scanos Juego, Courtney Gasso. My name is Courtney Sky, and I am a co-director of Protect the Tract and one of the main designers and creators of the Bead the Tract project. And so I'm going to provide an overview of the presentation today. So for today's agenda, we have just some highlights of the agenda. We're going to do an overview of Protect the Tract. We want to make sure that everyone who is interested in participating in this project knows fully this organization, who we are, what we stand for, an overview of the Beaded project, the timelines of that, and then the way for you to share your information with us so that we can get in contact with everyone and share what's going on. So our ancestors faced overwhelming odds and relentless pressure to give up our lands. We know that unscrupulous measures were employed to coerce our ancestors, and for too long, lands and waters in our territory have been exploited for profit. We seek justice for longstanding land right issues to end the exploitation of our lands and waters. So for folks that have never been there, this is the headwaters of the Grand River. This is in Dundalk, in what's now known as Ontario. And this little stream that runs between two farmers' fields is where the Grand River begins. And so part of it, our work is speaking directly to the land and providing these authentic resources for people to view and learn from. The Protect the Tract project grows out of the moratorium for development that was announced by the Haudenosaunee Confederacy Chiefs Council. So the moratorium on development was announced on April 20th, 2021. And then following that, on November 6th, the Confederacy Council and Protect the Tract agreed to terms of reference. And these terms of reference are effective until March 31st, 2023. Protect the Tract is a Haudenosaunee-led project. We conduct research, policy development, and we develop capacity for civil engagement so that Haudenosaunee people can exercise sovereignty and promotion of land stewardship along the Haldeman Tract. So we believe that Haudenosaunee sovereignty is maintained by Haudenosaunee people who are knowledgeable about our connection to our lands, confident in their identity, and politically engaged. So we are trying to mobilize our people to enact our sovereignty and promote land stewardship, good land stewardship over the Haldeman Tract. These three items here are outcome measures that we use for Protect the Tract to measure if we're having an impact or not. So the one thing that we want to know are that we are increasing Haudenosaunee people's connection to the land, that we are interconnected with all human and non-human kin in our creation, And as stewards of the land, we must maintain a physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, and collective relationship to our territory. The Haudenosaunee people are confident in their identity. So as Haudenosaunee Confederacy of Nations, we must be confident in who we are and where we come from, knowing our place on these lands and exerting our right to self-determination. We must be connected to our cultures, language, ceremonies, laws, and lands to be confident in our identity, and that we're promoting political engagement. So we want our nations to be empowered to engage in political environments, either in Haudenosaunee traditional governments or settler colonial systems like municipalities, the province, or the federal government. So we want people to be engaged in creating change. We do believe that we are placed here by our creator. So Six Nations of the Grand River Territory is stewarded by the Haudenosaunee, and our nations are joined together under the Great Law of Peace. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy is the inherent governance structure of the Haudenosaunee people, and we maintain a distinct worldview, ceremonial practices, despite generations of colonial violence and violation of our rights. Our tradition and cultural knowledge are sacred inheritance that we have an absolute right to practice and to pass on to our children. So our vision is self-determined based on our inherent right to protect our lands for future generations of Haudenosaunee children. And we intend to exercise our jurisdiction over our lands and waters in a way that maintains this delicate balance between creation and humans. And in order to do this, we must focus on sustainability and responsiveness to climate change to protect waters in ecologically sensitive areas. So this is a map of the broader Haudenosaunee territory. This is the 1751 map that is used to show kind of where our broad territory is. So as peoples, we're all across Turtle Island, the Finger Lakes region, between the three lakes, all these different ways to describe our broader territorial homelands. And knowing that there are different times and different periods in our history where there are borders. And so we acknowledge that the Haldeman Tract is a portion of that territory. And so we don't want our promotion of the Haldeman Tract to exclude acknowledgement of all the other communities and territories that exist outside of that for Haudenosaunee people. But that this particular tract of land was affirmed in 1784, and it reserves 6 miles on either side of the Grand River for the use and enjoyment of the people here forever in compensation of sacrifice of land following the American War of Independence. So the Grand River watershed is the largest in Southern Ontario, and it travels about 310 kilometers before emptying into Lake Ontario. And so again, as I said, this represents a small portion of our territory, and our broader territory is further affirmed through things like the 1701 Beaver Hunting Grounds Treaty, and extends well into what's now known as Canada and the United States. There's a couple other grounding perspectives that we have for Protect the Tract. This one, the legacy of history is the poverty, powerlessness, and the breakdown of social cohesion that plagues so many Aboriginal families and communities. These conditions did not come about by chance or through a failure to modernize or through some moral deficiency on the part of Aboriginal people. They were created by past policies that systemically dispossess Aboriginal peoples of their lands and economic resources, their cultures and languages, and the social and political institutions through which they took care of their own. We accept this inheritance, this legacy of racism and inhumanity, and by accepting this legacy, we also accept the moral responsibility of putting things right. So there are some very specific instances where we know that Haudenosaunee people are systemically dispossessed of our land in Ontario. So one of the ways that land theft is made legal is through provincial law. There are provincial laws and legislations, such as the Planning Act and the Places to Grow Act and a provincial policy statement that are maintained by Ontario that allow municipalities to develop our land and approve projects without our consent. If you actually look at this map, this is the Places to Grow map. And so the darkest gray areas in this map is the green belt. And the green area that we've overlaid is the Haldeman Tract. And then the gray areas, the middle toned gray areas that you see there are the Places to Grow Act. And you can see how for Ontario, their view of where the places to grow in this province are entirely within that broader Haudenosaunee territory that I was talking about earlier, but specifically the protections, the environmental protections that are put in place for the Greenbelt take this artificial straight line at the edges of the Haldeman Tract. So you can see where these protections end right as it is about to get to our territory. And then we're left in this area we're almost entirely seen as places to grow and places for further development and exploitation of the land. So we believe there are a couple of different areas where these systemic barriers can be addressed because they create these barriers from us being fully able to express our land stewardship responsibilities. So this is a very simple drawing of Canada's Constitution and essentially where this systematic oppression is created. There's a division of powers between the province and the federal government. Provinces maintain municipalities, while the federal government maintains the Indian Act and Indian reserves. And between all these levels and levels of government and different legislation they're all responsible for, there's these policy voids and gaps in their existing legal framework that allow for this exploitation and dispossession to take place. And then there's also an ability to create change with international human rights mechanisms, which are outside of Canada's colonial framework. So another one of the values that we have is that we must be protecting our water and we have to draw healing from the land. So restoring our relationship with creation through stewarding our lands and waters is the greatest priority that we have to healing our families from the colonial violence and dispossession we continue to endure. And this is where the project comes in of Bead the Tract. So beading the tract is a way for us to express our connection to this territory and do it in a way that highlights our traditional knowledge and our traditional art forms. So our objective from Protect the Tract is to reflect on Haudenosaunee relationships to the land and water, to celebrate Haudenosaunee art and artists, and to promote the work of Haudenosaunee knowledge keepers and historians. So we want to take this piece of art and put it within our political mobilization, creating conversations, creating civil engagement, all those pieces, and use this beaded artwork project to mobilize that knowledge and to become one of those central catalyst pieces where we can engage many people along the track through this art piece to be able to have conversations about restoring Haudenosaunee land stewardship over this tract of land. We do have oversight of this project. So we have an advisory group of artists, knowledge keepers, people that have worked with the Haudenosaunee Confederacy for many years, first language speakers to help oversee the project. And then we also are now extending and kind of pausing the thought we're doing around creating the project to now extend and open and ask for collaboration from artists. So we want to be able to collaborate and bring in artists at this point in the project because we want to make sure that we're not doing too much without people who are going to also be involved in this. We're looking for people to join us and to be a part of this work. So we're through the collaboration of this project, we're going to connect artists, historians, and knowledge keepers and co-create a large-scale map of the Grand River watershed and the Haldeman Tract. So the collaboration has a couple of different levels based on people's capacity. So design collaborators are going to be invited to attend an artist residency that's taking place November 27th to 29th in Waterloo. And these people will participate in teachings and develop a design for the map and mentor and host community knowledge sharing as the project develops. There's also going to be artist contributors. So if you're a raised beadwork artist who would like to contribute to the piece, but you have limited capacity or time, or you're looking for ways to support the art, this is a great role for you to fit in, and you'll support what the design collaborators come up with as they participate through the artist residency. And there's also an opportunity for mentees. So inspired junior beadwork artists who want to further develop their skills, whether it's beadwork or being able to mobilize their knowledge, and want to work under and learn from the skills of the artists that are taking on these more collaborative roles. And so that's the kind of way we're viewing different levels of collaboration. The artist residency is going to be where a lot of the co-created design is going to be happening. There's also going to be an opportunity where historians and artists will be a part of that, where artists will have time to reflect, design, look at maps, learn about history more in depth. We have Dr. Susan Hill from the University of Toronto and Dr. Rick Montour from McMaster University, who are going to be the main resources for the artists to make sure that history is being accurately reflected in the piece, and that we're using and building off of maybe maps of historic village sites or whatever to design a piece that has the capacity to generate many different kinds of conversations. And artists will be a part of that, and collaborators will be a part of working with historians and knowledge keepers to make sure that what we're planning for this final piece will be something that everyone is comfortable with and everyone is participating in. So as I said, there's a couple of different phases to this. So right now we're in stage one where we're recruiting artists. And then from there, we'll go to residency and then design of the piece. Stage three is setting creative milestones. So how long, like depending on how many artists are interested in, it's obviously going to take a different amount of time to create the work. So setting different milestones based on who's part of the collaboration. We then would like to host community workshops or mentorship spaces where these artists can take a lead role in sharing and becoming a catalyst for these kinds of conversations through beadwork, to be able to share this traditional skill, but also speak to that connection to the land and water. And then in 2023, there will be an artist exhibition. And so this piece, along with possibly like several other pieces of art from other artists and other different mediums, will be part of an exhibition that will travel up and down the Haldeman Tract for public viewing. And then further to that, there's also an opportunity for hosting more community education sessions and workshops that different artists might be leading and that we would be supporting them with. So if you're interested in collaborating with Protect the Tract, we are super excited to have who's ever interested. I can post the link for this too in the chat for this QR code. But if you're viewing it, you can take a picture of this with your phone and get the link to fill out a Google form. And this form is basically just letting us know how to get a hold of you, some of your perspectives, if this is generating ideas for you and things that you would like to share with us, back to us, please fill it out in the form. And you can also upload examples of your beadwork if you'd like to show us work that you've done in the past. And we're just asking that this form can be completed by October 14th, so we get an idea of how many people are interested in each one of those different levels we had talked about. And if people are needing any type of accommodation to be able to participate in the artist residency, which is scheduled for November 27th to 29th in Kitchener. And this also includes stipends. So say, for example, you're working full-time, you're taking time off work, and you need income to supplement that income of doing the work. Please include that in the form, because we do fully intend to pay artists for their labor and make sure that this is something that is not just us extracting your skill and knowledge. We do want to have that reciprocal relationship and seek opportunities too for artists to be paid for their work and their labor in this process. So please outline what you think would be fair in the form as well. And we're going to continue to seek those opportunities for us on our end, because obviously like identity artists and people are so important, and all the work that you do, not just as artists, but as people in the community, are so pivotal. So empowering you as well with resources and financial support, all of that is a really high priority for us in this project as well. So I hope that you found this informative. And if you have any questions, please contact us. This is our email, our website, our social media handle. And all of these things are ways that you can get a hold of us to seek more information about the project and ask any follow-up questions that you might have of those of us here. So Nyagoa, thank you everyone for listening and participating and being here in our webinar. I'm going to stop sharing the screen right now. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. And I do want to share the link. So the link for the form is in the chat. Please fill this out and please feel free to share. And I'm going to see if I can figure out how to upload this presentation to our YouTube so that if you have other people that you'd like to share this information with you, maybe other beadwork artists that you know, that they can get an overview, that will be available as well. So please take the time to fully, check out Protect the Tract, ask questions that you need to, because you recognize that artists and people that are doing this kind of work or collaborating in this way, we want to make sure that you also are fully invested in the space that we're coming from and the perspective that we have as an organization. And so please, make sure that we're someone that you would like to be a part of a collaborative relationship with as well, and share with us if you'd be willing to pursue that. Thank you everyone for being here. And we look forward to seeing all of you in the near future working and collaborating on this project.